It's Miners Monday on Locked On Braves. We're going to be breaking down Justyn-Henry, Malloy, and Cal Conley, talking about whether or not they could be the next ones to step up for the Atlanta Braves. We'll also answer some of your Twitter questions, talking about some of the Braves prospects, including who could be an impact player over the next several years. We'll talk about a lot of prospects on this episode, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on Twitter at ShortstopBall. Check out my bio there to see where I am covering the game of baseball. Also, make sure you follow the podcast on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves. Send in any questions, comments, or feedback you have for the podcast. Always appreciate the feedback and comments. If you're new, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. And if you're watching this video, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button and that notification bell, as it helps support the show a ton when you do that. And as always, thanks for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. We continue to post episodes daily throughout the offseason, 5 days a week, and have plenty of coverage leading up to and after, during and after the winter meetings. This is a minor league Monday episode. Going to start doing that regularly as I did during the regular season, where I covered the top performers at the minor league level. Now in the off season, we're going to start breaking down some of the Braves' top prospects, kind of giving you my scouting report on them and what I project them to be at the next level and when we could potentially see them. Today, we're going to focus on Justyn-Henry, Malloy, and Cal Conley, two prospects that kind of made a good bit of noise in 2022 and performed well in the Arizona Fall League. And then we'll get to some of your Twitter questions as well in the final segment. Also talk about Ron Acuna Jr., who became a champion on a Monday night. We'll talk about him, how he's doing in the Venezuelan League, and a couple of news items from around the league. Well, let's start with this Miners Monday. Let's talk about Justyn-Henry Malloy. I'm going to go through his backstory a little bit, kind of give you my scouting report and my projections for him. He spent 2 years at Vanderbilt, one of the best college baseball programs in all of college baseball, if not the best. So just the fact he was recruited by Vanderbilt and went there says a lot about his talent level. Now, he played in just 26 games there, was actually part of a College World Series championship at Vanderbilt in 2019. Then he transferred to Georgia Tech, not a bad baseball program in its own right. And he slashed 308, 436, 558 with 11 home runs, 53 runs scored, 43 runs batted in, 46 walks and 40 strikeouts in 56 games in his junior year. So pretty great numbers there for Justyn-Henry Malloy, playing in the ACC, and I cover college baseball, so very familiar with the scene in the SEC and the ACC down here in the Southeast. And ACC is right there with the SEC as one of the best conferences in all of college baseball. So very good competition there. Don't read too much into the fact that he had more walks and strikeouts. You see that a lot at the college level. Now, we're obviously going to get into his minor league numbers, where that's pretty much remained, but a lot of times you see really good hitters at the college level walk more than they strike out, and that doesn't always translate to the big league level. Now, after that year at Georgia Tech, the Braves took him in the 6th round of the 2021 MLB draft. They actually drafted him as a first baseman. He played first base and third base for Georgia Tech, was primarily a third baseman in college. They signed him for just under $300,000, which was well over the slot value for where they took him, almost $50,000 over, more so about $40,000 over where the slot value was for that pick. And it was also more than his Georgia Tech teammate Lute Waddell, who got drafted in the round before that by the Atlanta Braves. So pretty interesting there. In that draft year, he played 37 games for Augusta, slashed 271, 388, 434 with 5 home runs. So a very good showing in his first professional season, obviously a shortened one after the draft. Comes back in 2022, starts out in Rome, slashes 304, 409, 479 with 10 home runs in 71 games. So crushes it at high A. In the middle of July, he gets called up to Mississippi, where he slashes 268, 403, 421 with 6 home runs in 54 games. I always say this. I've covered AA South before for Prospects 1500. Obviously, live in Birmingham, where the Barons are part of that same league as Mississippi. It is a very tough league to hit in. So don't look too much into the fact that the average and slug was down. A lot of hitters struggle. A lot of the ballparks in the AA South, the Southern League, are pitcher friendly. So don't look too much into that. But a 403 on base percentage, really, really impressive. Still 6 home runs in 54 games. After the AA season ended, they moved him up to AAA, where he played 8 games and slashed 280, 424, 440 with a home run. Very small sample size, but you can see the consistency all year long for Justyn-Henry Malloy. Overall, he slashed 289, 408. He had an on-base percentage over 400 this year. 454 slug, 17 home runs, 28 doubles, 91 runs scored, 82 runs batted in, 97 walks, and 138 strikeouts. So I told you, in college, more walks than strikeouts doesn't always translate. Still got the walks and a high amount of walks, but a high amount of strikeouts as well. In 133 games, averaged about a strikeout a game. Then he played in the Arizona Fall League and impressed there as well. He made the the Fall Star team, slash 306, 438, 444 with a home run, 16 walks, and 20 strikeouts in 20 games. So everywhere he played this year, he had an on-base percentage over 400. That really says a lot and speaks a lot to Justyn-Henry Malloy and his ability to get on base. Now, he's a right-handed hitter, 6'3", 212 pounds, really good build. I mean, he looks like a ball player. He looks like somebody, who can hit. He got good size on him. Played some third base at Augusta last year, played some first, second, and third in college. Played at third base in Rome to start 2022. Then they moved him to left field, and I think that's ultimately where he's going to be if he plays in the field. I'll talk about that in a second. Turns 23 in February, being a college player, obviously a little bit older, but also allows him to kind of advance more quickly, as we saw him do in 2022. So again, finished the year at AAA, so knocking on the door. Obviously, you'll have a chance in spring training to make an impression. Now, my quick, scouting report of him, just watching some video, a lot of movement before the pitch. You can see, he takes his hands and he's moving them up and down. He's doing a foot tap. All that's well and good, if you have mastered that. But I get a little bit weary of batters who have that much movement pre-pitch. That can lead to some really bad timing issues, especially once you get to the major league level and speeds are being, mixed up on you at high velocity and high spin rates. I'm always a little weary of hitters who have a lot of movement. Obviously, Gary Sheffield had tons of movement at the plate and had what could have been a Hall of Fame career if there weren't some questions maybe surrounding him. But, so people can do it. And, I'm not saying he won't be a good hitter because of that. It just always worries me a little bit when you got that much movement, especially how much he's moving his hands pre-pitch. That worries me a little bit. But it also helps him create some good bat speed. And he has really good bat speed, really good hands. He keeps his head very straight and has as much pre-pitch movement as he has in his hands and his feet. He keeps his head very still. And I think that allows him to track that ball longer. And it's why he has such a good eye at the plate. You watch his head and his swing. I mean, it is locked in and it is not moving. So again, I'm not saying he won't hit because of all the pre-pitch movement. It's just something that I look for in hitters that I don't typically like, because it takes a lot of timing in order to get that swing right. And if you get that timing off a little bit, can lead to slumps. He's an extreme pull hitter, or at least he was at AA and AAA this year. Over 50% of the time he pulled the ball in AA and AAA. And I saw that in some of the games that I watched, that even pitches on the outside part of the plate, he was wrapping his hands around him and pulling them to the left side. Don't know if that's a big deal, because he does have some pretty good power and still had the ability to drive some of those balls, but something he may need to adjust and change as he gets older and could help him become an even better hitter. So that's kind of my just quick scouting report on watching some of the video, watching him. I think you look at the numbers, regardless of what I'm saying about him, you look at the numbers and kind of what he projects as a 275, 350, 430 type of hitter. I mean, a really good hitter, somebody that can have average isolated power, somewhere in the 160s, a 20 to 25 home run hitter, 35 doubles, a 15% walk rate, and a 25% strikeout rate. Now, yes, he gets on base. He takes his walks. He does strike out. Get confused. He will strike out, 140, 150 times over a full season in the big leagues, but he does takes his walks. He will get on base. An elite, you look at the pros and cons of Justyn-Henry Malloy, elite on base guy. I think that's pretty evident at this point so far in his career, and even moving up levels, playing in the fall league, he gets on base. We've seen that. Above average power, it's not elite level power, but again, I think somebody who could easily hit 20 to 25 home runs a year. Some of the cons on him, for me, he's not ready defensively. And I saw this when I watched him live. He just doesn't look comfortable in left field. And it's a new position for him. I mean, he primarily played in the infield at college and then even started 2022 in the infield, and they just moved him to left field. So makes sense that maybe he seems a little uncomfortable out there. But just from what I saw from him in person and what I've seen from him watching video, I don't think he's ready defensively in left field, but it's not like it's a lot worse than what we have right there right now in Rosario and Ozuna, and doesn't bring a ton of speed. So again, you get into a situation, you got a guy who's a really good hitter, really good on base guy, but not great defensively, doesn't bring a lot of speed. So if that one thing he does well, doesn't come to fruition and doesn't work out, you're potentially looking at a pretty big bust here with Justyn-Henry Malloy. And I'm not trying to be down on the guy. I think he's going to be a good hitter. I think he's going to get on base. There's just something about him when I watched him in person and even going back and watching video that just worries me about him overall. So again, I'm not trying to say he won't be a good player. I'm not quite as sold on him yet, maybe as others are. I think he's currently the best position player prospect for the Braves, but it's also not saying a lot with where the system is right now. So again, I think he's a solid player. I think we could see him, I think he has a potential to come up in 2023. I don't think he will, or maybe even should, unless he just goes to AAA and continues to do what he did last year and you continue to have problems in left field, then maybe you give him a shot. But I think 2024 is where we could really see him come up and have an impact. And again, I think a lot's going to happen in 2023 to see, can he handle the left field position? Is he ultimately a DH? A lot of questions still there on Justyn-Henry Malloy. All right, when we come back, I'm going to go over Cal Conley and what kind of impact he could have at the next level and just how quickly he could be up there, as he had a good 2022 as well. We'll talk about that next. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From football to basketball to soccer and esports, they have it all at BetOnline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. They're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix responsibly. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, second player we're going to get into on this Minors Monday is Cal Conley, another guy, another position player, big 2022. In college, he transferred from Miami, started out his career in Miami, another great college school, and then spent 2 years at Texas Tech. In his second year at Texas Tech, he slashed 329, 393, 587. He had 15 home runs, 46 runs, 55 runs batted in, 7 stolen bases, 21 walks, 38 strikeouts in 56 games. Primarily at Texas Tech, he played shortstop, but did play some third base as well. One thing I'll tell you, again, as somebody who follows the college game, Big 12 is more of an offensive league, kind of the same thing you see in football. The Big 12 is more offense oriented. So don't look too much into that 15 home run total. I mean, I do think he's going to have some power, but the Big 12 is typically more offense oriented. and not heavy so much on the pitching side outside of Texas, Oklahoma, a couple of schools there. He was ranked as the 170th best prospect by MLB Pipeline in 2021, and the Braves took him as the 126th overall pick in the 4th round, signed him under slot at just over $422,000. He played 35 games with Augusta in 2021, switching between second base and shortstop. He slashed just 214, 304, 307 with 2 homers, still scored 21 runs. And that's something you're going to see with Cal Conley. The guy gets on base and he scores runs. And there's something to be said about that. Just 9 runs batted in his first professional season, 8 stolen bases, 14 walks, and 33 strikeouts. But this year, much better season. I think more typical Cal Conley-like effort. Started the year at Augusta, slashed 246, 307, 414 with 10 homers, 62 runs scored. Again, you're seeing a lot of runs scored, 40 runs batted in, 23 stolen bases, 25 walks, and 59 strikeouts in 44 games. Then in July, he was called up to Rome. He did a little bit better, slashed 260, 337, 429, 6 homers, 32 runs scored, 25 runs batted in, 13 more stolen bases in 44 games. In total in 2022, he slashed 251, just a 318 on base percentage, 420 slugs, 16 homers, 20 doubles, 94 runs scored, 65 runs batted in, 36 stolen bases, 44 walks, and 109 strikeouts in 119 games. Then he went to the Arizona Fall League. He was in the running along with Justyn-Henry Malloy to be on the Fall Star team. Overall, he slashed 267, 376. You saw that on base go up, 465 slugging. He had 2 homers, 5 doubles, and 2 triples in 23 games. So you saw the extra base potential there. A switch hitter, just 5'10", 185 pounds. He turned 23 in July. So just like Justyn-Henry Malloy, college player up there a little bit, but able to advance as a more mature hitter. My just quick kind of scouting report on him, watched a couple of games. I really like his swing from the left side, which is great because primarily you're going to see right-handed pitching. That's what you're going to face most of the time. And he had a 741 OPS from the batting left compared to 725 batting right. And everything I've read on the scouting report say that swing is more contact oriented from the left side. And I really loved what I saw from him swinging from the left side. The speed is legit. One of the games I watched, he hit one into right center field. The right fielder cut it off pretty quickly in the gap, and Conley was able to pretty easily get to second base for a double. I think he's ultimately a utility player, and this is pretty much what I thought when he was coming out of Texas Tech and when the Braves drafted him. I never really viewed him as an everyday player. I see him being a pretty solid utility player, and obviously being a switch hitter is nice as well. I think maybe there's a potential for him to have some years as an everyday player at second base. I do not think he has the arm to play shortstop. He's going to make all the plays. Ball hit to him. He's going to make the plays. In my opinion, watching him, he does not have the arm to stick at shortstop. So that limits him a little bit. Could he do it? Yeah, I don't see that being his primary position. I see him ultimately moving to second base. Kind of looking at a projection for him at the big league level, it is what I would consider his highest projection, 255, 320, 430 slash line. I think he has 20 home run potential, maybe even a little bit more, 30 plus doubles, not, pretty similar to Justyn-Henry Malloy in the extra base department. Again, average ISO, maybe even a little bit more, closer to 170, which would be above average. 7% walk rate, big difference than what we talked about with Justyn-Henry Malloy. 25% K rate. So that's where you see the difference right now in Conley's game compared to Malloy's is Conley does not walk a lot, and he still strikes out a ton. The pros for Cal Conley, nice speed and power combo. Again, he gets on base, he scores runs, and because of that speed, I think he's going to get, more doubles, and he has the ability to pull the ball, has a little bit more power from the right side, as most switch hitters typically do, if that's, their more powerful side. But I do see him having a very nice speed power combo, and that speed is elite. He's gotten caught, several times at the minor league level, but somebody that could steal 30 to 40 bases So I like the elite speed that he carries. The cons for him, I'm not sure he'll hit enough to be an everyday player. I projected him at his peak at maybe 255, maybe 260, but could very easily see him being a 230, 240 hitter. And I don't know if that's enough, despite, the other good things that he does. And plus, I think he has to move off shortstop and go to second base. I don't think he has the arm for shortstop. That's the other con for me. So again, not having that consistent hitting ability and having to come off a primary position of shortstop and go to second base are some pretty big cons for Cal Conley. Now, that being said, I still think he's going to be a solid utility type player. A good hard worker. Think of somebody like an Omar Infante off the bench, somebody who can come in and play every day in the case of an injury, but more so a utility type guy who can come in, give a guy a day off, a switch hitter off the bench who has some power, who has some elite speed as a pinch runner as well. So I think there is certainly value with Cal Conley. I don't see him becoming a huge everyday impact player at the big league level, and I never have, even when the Braves drafted him. But I do see him being, a solid option off the bench and a very good utility player. All right, got a little bit of news to get to, including some on Ronald Acuna Jr. and then a couple of prospect questions that we'll answer as well, and we will do that next. This episode is also brought to you by SimpliSafe. The numbers don't lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen SimpliSafe home security to protect their home. You don't earn the trust of that many people without doing something right. At SimpliSafe, your safety is the only thing that matters. It's super customizable, not a situation where you have to purchase things you don't need in order to get things you want. The system integrates well into your home and it's easy to self-install, so no need to schedule an appointment, have somebody come into your home and then install a bunch of bulky units where you don't need to mess up your customs design. It's very useful for peace of mind. I have young kids at home. I enjoy having that peace of mind with security in place, and it can move with you even if you decide to change homes. Just remove the elements and take them with you to the new place. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplisafe.com/lockedonmlb. Save 20% on your SimpliSafe security system when you sign up for interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Again, visit simplisafe.com/lockedonmlb to learn more. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. On Monday, you may have caught this. If you were watching my Twitter feed, I retweeted a couple of videos of Ronald Acuna Jr. in the Venezuelan Winter League Home Run Derby, which he won. Again, I keep saying it. I'm just so happy to see him be able to go to his home country and just play in front of those fans, and the emotion afterward and everybody just mobbing him is just great. The guy, as I tweeted this out, he went through a grind in 2022 coming back from that ACL injury. It just at times did not look like he was having fun having to play through that injury and not being able to do some of the things he's used to doing. So I'm so happy for him that he's able to go to his home country, and he just looks like he's having so much fun there, and it's great, and glad that he won. William Contreras participated in this as well and advanced to the second round. He and his brother actually both did, and there were some big names in this home run derby. You had Wilson and William Contreras, Eduardo Escobar, Eugenio Suarez, Jose Altuve, Gleyber Torres. So this was, not just some, Acuna going up against the nobodies over in Venezuela. There's some big names in this. William beat Suarez in the first round, like I said, to advance to the second round. And then Acuna, he's played in 5 Winter League games now. He's 8 for 18. Just 1 extra base hit, the home run he hit, his pinch hit, his first at bat. 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. I would imagine they're telling him, don't try to stretch any singles into doubles out there. So maybe that's why the extra base hits are down a little bit, but still 8 hits and 18 at bats, certainly solid to see him having a little bit of success there as well. Some news from around the league. Jose Abreu signed with the Astros. Be weird not seeing him in a White Sox uniform, and he goes to the defending champs. I can't say that the Braves are defending champs anymore. Mike Clevenger also signed with the White Sox. So White Sox lose somebody, they get somebody in. I thought Clevenger could have been a solid deal for the Braves, a guy looking to kind of bounce back. If you did want to beef up the rotation a little bit, I thought Clevenger would have been a nice sign as somebody, looking to kind of get a prove it deal to regain their stock. But that's pretty much does it for the news. Got a couple of questions from Twitter and comments I wanted to get to. Joey Milby says, not a question, but my JHM comparison is Ron Gant, a professional hitter who is going to hit some home runs, but probably not more than 30, and is going to hit 270-ish with a high on-base percentage because he walks a lot. Needs to be in AAA this year, but 2024 is his year. And I think that's a solid comp. I don't remember how good or bad Ron Gant was defensively, but certainly offensively, I think that's a pretty good comparison. Joey also says, Cal Conley kind of snuck up on me. Do you think he is someone who could push for the major league job in a couple of seasons? He did everything in the fall for his team. I'm looking forward to him doing that at AA next year. Is he better than Braden Shoemake? So he snuck up on me too a little bit, even though I was very familiar with his game coming out of college at Texas Tech. Like I said, I viewed him as a utility player coming out of college. I didn't necessarily love the pick because I felt like he would ultimately have to move to second base and wouldn't be a shortstop. But I'll say, watching him, I kind of get a little excited about what he could potentially be and perhaps become an everyday second baseman. That being said, Ozzie always is there for a while still. So could he push for the major league job in a couple of seasons, as Joey asked? I would assume maybe Joey's thinking, could he push for shortstop? Look, if they don't think Vaughn Grissom can be an everyday shortstop, I don't think Cal Conley can be either, because just the arm that I see from him is not shortstop worthy. But I could see him breaking through in 2024 as a utility type player, that's for sure. And I do think he's a better hitter than Braden Shoemake, which again is crazy because I thought Braden Shoemake in his freshman year at Texas A&M was one of the best college hitters I've seen, but man, has he regressed. But just the switch hit ability of Cal Conley, the fact that he has power, he has speed, gives him the edge over Shoemake to me offensively. But Shoemake's somebody, he can play shortstop and he can play, a lot of the infield positions at a good level. So that kind of gives him a leg up defensively, whereas Cal Conley, doesn't have that. But I would still probably put Conley over Shoemake right now. I've been down on Shoemake for several years now, even going back to his last couple of years at Texas A&M, where he never progressed after his freshman year, and it's almost been like he's regressed every year since then. Humes Franklin says, name 5 Braves minor league players you think have the best chance of being impact players in the next 3 years. And the impact player part of that makes this a little bit difficult because I don't see them rolling out another, Michael Harris or Vaughn Grissom or Spencer Strider anytime soon. Now, I like some of the really young guys that they have, some of the guys they just drafted, J.R. Ritchie, Owen Murphy, Cole Phillips, David McCabe. I like some of those guys, Nacho Alvarez as well. I mean, there are some guys that I really like that they just drafted, but I don't, they're more than 3 years away. We talked about Justyn-Henry Malloy. I think we do see him in the next year or two. I don't know if he would qualify as an impact player. If he ends up grabbing the left field everyday job, then I certainly think he could be. And I think he's going to hit, and I think he's going to get on base. So I think that's one for sure. AJ Smith-Shawver, one of the bigger upside prospects the Braves have, if he can stay healthy and get out there and pitch, he could be on the end of that 3-year run. We could maybe see him make an impact. Dylan Dodd is someone who gained a lot of steam this past year, and he finished the year at AAA. So I think he's somebody we could see, maybe not in 2023, but in 2024, get a shot in the rotation. Those were the 3 that really came to my mind when you think of potential impact players. Now, Kyle Muller could figure it out and become a number 3 starter and a real impact player in the rotation. I also think there's several guys who could be an impact in the bullpen over the next 3 years. I think Muller, if it doesn't work out as a starter, could be. Freddie Tarnick, Victor Vodnik, Royber Salinas, Rodri Munoz. Those are all guys that I think are knocking on the door to have some type of impact at the big league level, but just not sure exactly where that is yet. So again, you would ask me this last year, I'd have easily spouted off, Michael Harris, Spencer Strider, Vaughn Grissom. I'd have said those guys are 2 or 3 years away. Little did I know it was going to be less time than that. But I'd say right now, the guys who are closest to, being an actual impact, we'll obviously see a lot of these guys in some sort of fashion. But Justyn-Henry, Malloy, AJ Smith-Shawver, Dylan Dodd are guys that I think could be impact players over the next 3 years. Last question here. Kate Harrington says, any chance we see Darius Vines in September or possibly earlier, or is he a trade piece? If we do see Darius Vines this year, and again, remember the Braves starting rotation is very deep. It's 9 or 10 deep, and I would probably put Vines, 9th, 8th, 9th, 10th on that list. So I think if we do see him in 2023, I think it's likely in a bullpen role, maybe towards the end of the year. Maybe he gets a spot start late in the year if there's some, significant injury issues with the Braves rotation. I think he's more likely a trade chip at this point. I think if you saw the Braves make, some sort of, minor deal for a guy on a, 1 or 2 years of control, I think maybe you see Vines in that move. You get towards the deadline. I think he's somebody that becomes a bit of a trade chip for the Braves. Honestly, if I had to predict right now, I'd say he's traded before he makes a start or makes an appearance with the Braves. That's kind of where I am with Darius Vines at the moment. Well, that does it for Miners Monday. Thank you all for sending in your questions on the show, and thank you for sticking around. Sorry I couldn't do this episode live. I had some issues with the stream, but hopefully be able to get back and do that again soon. As always, thanks for listening to Locked On Braves. Make sure you make your second listen at Locked On MLB, where MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan brings humor, passion, and a unique perspective, talking about every team and the biggest stories from around the league. Again, thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves. You can follow me at Shortstop Ball. Also, make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.